I think, I don't know. In my opinion, it was probably the better of the three for this month. So,
All right, I won the competition. Wait,
yeah,
what do I get?
I don't know.
Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd podcast.
Hello, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen gobble of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Today on the podcast, we're on the topic for the month, which is movies about mafia. And tonight's movie is the 2005 American crime film directed by David Cronenberg, which is called A History of Violence, which stars Viggo Mortenson, Maria Bello, Ed Harris, William Hurt. And it is about a criminal. I didn't write this part down. But it's about a criminal that who tried to get out of being a criminal and starts a new life under a new name, and then after doing an act of heroism, is found out by his old gang members who come after him. So that's basically the synopsis of this movie. Let's talk about it, guys.
So first of all, we ended last week, or ended the last episode with me talking about the scene that will live forever in my memory, and Crit said he was pretty sure he knew what scene I was talking about. So I have to ask Crit, what scene did you think I was talking about?
I thought you meant. I would think that it would be the violent sex scene on the staircase.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
That scene is forever burned into my brain as just nuts. Like, so it's a violent sex scene for one, so some content warning there. But then stairs, that's just very uncomfortable. Like, I don't.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not the most romantic thing in the world. I don't.
So what do you think was the filmmaker's point in putting that scene in there, and also making it on the stairs and the way it was blocked out and filmed?
I think they ran out of money. No, I'm just kidding. They're like, crap. We're going to use the studio's back lot here.
I was going to say, if they ran out of money, they're not going to do it on stairs. It's much harder to film on.
Yeah. Well, and those were like attic, or they weren't. I don't know if they were attic or basement stairs. I didn't.
They were really narrow, weren't they?
Yeah.
Or at least it seemed that way.
It was nuts. So I think that scene shows a lot of. Man, I don't know. Like, it's a hard scene to unpack. It's like, is this Tom's, or I guess, do we call him? Okay, so first of all, do we call him Tom or do we call him Joey? I say we call him Tom just for ease of use, because that's what he's referred to as most.
Yeah, I have a whole lot to talk about this movie because there's so much in it. That's why I had it on the list. But let's put the Tom Joey thing aside for now because I want to get back to that. So remind me.
Okay.
But yeah, let's address the staircase, sex scene, and John, what do you think? You think it was just straight up gratuitous, or was there a point?
I don't think it was gratuitous at all. I think it has a point. I think it has a very powerful point in the film. I think Tom / Joey is fighting with himself a lot of the time, and fighting with what got him into crime in the first place, maybe. But honestly, like, I don't know. Like, first of all, do we classify this as a rape? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
It is in question. Yeah,
it's like, yes, she kind of gives in, but is it giving in, or is it actually enjoyment? And so it's a huge question for the rest of the film, and I think your answer to that question determines whether or not you're as accepting as his kids are at the end of the film, when he's offering the food around. And I think that determines a lot of how you feel about him as a person and his redemption arc, I guess, so to speak.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I think it absolutely has a point. I don't think it's gratuitous at all. I think it's crazy and nuts.
Yeah.
But I think it's absolutely needed for this film to have the impact that I think Cronenberg wanted it to have.
Well, Josh, what do you think?
All I can say is wild.
Yeah, it's
It was
definitely wild.
crazy.
Yeah, I think it's a like, isn't it an interesting counterpoint to the only other sex scene in the movie, which was much earlier, that was very tender and kind of nostalgic in a way, because it's like she's basically, acting like she would have as a teenager and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was a little weird too. I was just like,
Well,
okay.
yeah.
I mean, some people like role play, so okay.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I think it's I think it's an interesting contrast between those. I think there's also might be some, so like this gets into the Tom versus Joey aspect of it, um, which then gets into kind of all of Cronenberg's like major movies, right? Like most of his movies, have some type of body horror and transformation in it, and I think this is one of his movies where there is transformation or even maybe even regression, except that it's not physical, right? Or for the most part, like it's
mhm.
emotional and it's familial. It's like the transformation of this family, this
Well,
transformation of the
she even
man.
says it when after those people were after their son kills those Ed Harris,
Yeah,
that I saw another person there. I saw
right,
Joey there.
right. Like it just from the perspective of like Cronenberg's other films, like The Fly and stuff like that. It's like this idea of, uh, you know, transformation, of becoming something new, and the way he it's framed as not a physical thing, but kind of as this is how violence has changed this family, right? Like this family can never be the same again, right? um and it's all around violence. Like the violence itself is like this, um it's like this other character in the movie, um that I think that's why it makes it such an interesting movie, because like there's violence in like tons of, especially American cinema, but tons of cinema, all sorts of movies have violence everywhere in them, and we kind of just, enjoy it to some degree, or even not even to some degree, just blatantly enjoy it.
Mhm.
But we don't ever really question it for the most part, right? And
Yeah,
this movie make kind of, if you're looking at it in a certain perspective, it kind of makes you question it. It becomes this catalyst system instead of just cause and effect. It's kind of like, you know this undercurrent of violence, and when it rises to the surface, it's like everybody's lives change, and then you get to see that change, and you get to, kind of deal with it directly, as opposed to just kind of letting it be the previous scene and move on with the plot.
I think that the sex scene plays another important role with regards to what you're talking about with violence, and we watch all these violent films. It actually reminds me of a South Park episode where at the end, the whole point and the whole quote is like, I guess our parents don't care about all the violence that and drugs we do as long as there's sex stuff to worry about.
Right.
Like just pointing out that, we as a culture in America especially tend to focus so much more on the sexual aspects of things. And so I think Cronenberg, I don't know if he did it on purpose. I think it is on purpose.
I think so,
But
because it's a Canadian basically creating his version of an American movie.
yeah, exactly. And so I think it has a powerful motivation of, okay, no, I'm making you think about this. It's not just a violent film. It's not just about, it's not Taken or something along those lines. Like, no, you really need to think about this film, and I'm going to force you, the American audience, to be uncomfortable with something so that you can, you actually take a minute and think about it.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting how, like, it pulls an American audience in with that open with the dining scene, and just the way you're just like, oh, this guy's a badass. He's almost superhuman in the way he just kind of just becomes, this avatar of like, protection and justice and stuff like that. And you don't know at that point in the film that, he's actually a former member or anything like that.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, and as
And
soon as that happens, though, you're like, oh, okay, something's definitely up here.
yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing about the more violent sex scene is that it's like she's trying to figure out who Joey is, and he's trying to keep Joey in check, sort of. But this is how Joey would approach the situation, as opposed to the previous sex scene, which is kind of how Tom approached the situation.
Right.
You know, and that, it's like she's exploring Joey in some way, but then it's also like she's not quite sure what she's gotten into. And yeah, it's so nuanced, and that's what makes it kind of amazing, right? Because you can't just be like straight up like this is actual marital rape. I mean, it could be, but it also could not be, and that's a hard line to kind of walk down.
Yeah, and that's why I say, like, your interpretation of it changes the impact of the film and the impact of the ending, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I could see that.
Especially because after that he goes, he kind of goes bonkers. Not bonkers, but he embraces.
He kind of becomes Joey.
Yeah, he becomes Joey again for like to finish what he started, I guess, so to speak, or finish getting out, doing all of his stuff. So yeah, I don't know, but that is definitely the scene that stays with me.
Yeah, and I think also there's something about like a critique of like the observation of the link between intimacy and violence, like that intimacy between two people. I mean, violence is one version of that, right?
Yeah.
And to kind of cross that line and try to figure out, where that, where that sits between a husband and wife in that situation.
Yeah. No, I really. It's a hard scene to watch, and it was a hard scene to watch again, like knowing it was coming up. But yeah, no, I think it fits the film, and I think without it, the film would not be as powerful or as good as it would.
I don't think it makes as hard of a or as good of a as interesting a statement as it makes without that.
Right.
Scene.
And Viggo just acts the hell out of it too.
Oh, they both do. Yeah,
that's absolutely sure.
I think that's why it makes it so, like, in lesser actors and lesser team to put this together, it probably would have been very easy to figure out, if this is an absolute wrong or an absolute good.
Well, and then after this, you have he was in a couple of other Cronenberg films. He was in A Dangerous Method, and I want to say he was in Eastern Promises, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, he was in Eastern Promises.
Yeah, okay, yeah, he was the main guy. He was the main guy. Yeah, so he was in the next two Cronenberg films.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there was a lot of good chemistry between him and Cronenberg to bring these scenes to life. I don't know about Maria Bello, if she acted in any more of Cronenberg's films. I didn't look that far into it, but Viggo for sure did, and I think he's a very powerful actor and a very powerful connection with Cronenberg in that setup, especially considering how Eastern Promises is. I have not seen A Dangerous Method yet, though, so I don't know how that one was.
That's fair. Well, Josh, what do you think?
About which part? About
any part. I think we're done with the sex scenes, unless you've got something to say on it.
No, I don't. You guys said I think plenty. I actually really enjoyed this film. I thought it was done really well. Viggo Mortenson, I thought in this movie did a really, really good job. Because of the name of the movie, I kind of guessed who Ed Harris was when they first came in and what was going on, but that didn't mean that just because I knew what was going on didn't mean anything less. It didn't take away from the movie at all from me. It was, even though it was a slower movie, it didn't have a lot of action except for at the very end with his brother. I thought the movie was very intriguing. I thought it was very engaging, and the relation, the interaction of the relationship with the family. Yeah, kind of like what you guys were saying a little earlier, that the family is really, an integral part of this, and seeing them transform and kind of come out of the shadows that he's kept them in, is, one by one, was a very interesting concept. Finding out who this man really was, and them kind of dealing with it. I thought that was overall, I really enjoyed that part of the movie. This is, this is in the last couple out of the last couple of movies. I think this is the one I enjoyed the most out of all of them. Awesome. And stuff. But yeah, this is a really good film. I think it's really well done. I have a hard time not saying a lot of good about this movie. It was more enjoyable than I expected.
Yeah, I like Ed Harris, and was it John Hurt that played the
John
brother?
Hurt? Yep.
Yeah, they were great.
No, William Hurt. Sorry,
William Hurt. That's right, William Hurt. I thought they were great. Really interesting when they were on screen too.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. William Hurt, man, that's not a part you normally see him in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he played outside of the box of characters that he normally plays, and I thought he did a really good job playing that part. I think he should do more parts like that, and to be honest with you, but I really enjoyed Viggo Mortenson's, portrayal of this character. I mean, I feel like he was able to switch back and forth between these two characters, his old self and his new self. Mm-hmm. Very well. I mean, it was very well portrayed on screen, even in his acting and his face. So, I know you guys said a lot of the similar things. This just kind of mirrors that.
Viggo Mortensen, I think, is a fantastic actor.
Agreed.
I love almost everything I've seen him in. Yeah.
I would agree with that. I haven't seen everything that he's been in. But the Lord of the Rings, of course, trilogy, and then this movie.
The Road.
What's that?
The Road. You have him in The Road.
I haven't seen that one, but I hear he's great.
Yeah. You should that one.
And I saw Green Card, or not Green Card. Sorry. What is that movie he's in? Green. Anyways, where he's the driver. Of a black
driving Miss Daisy.
No. Viggo Mortensen as Miss Daisy.
Green Book. It's called Green Book.
Yeah, Green Book.
I couldn't resist.
I thought Green Book was excellent. It's an excellent movie.
Have you seen Hidalgo?
I haven't.
That's an interesting Western.
He played Satan in The Prophecy.
Really?
Yeah, again with
Christopher Walken.
Yeah, Christopher Walken. Yeah,
I love Christopher.
In the first
Walken.
one, he actually has a really great monologue in that at the end of that movie.
Oh my goodness, that's an older horror movie.
Yep, very very niche and campy, but kind of.
I know what it is. I actually never have seen him, to be honest with you. But
I'm gonna have to add that to my list.
Yeah, the Prophecy's a really interesting watch. I don't know how well it aged because it's definitely late 90s, I think, but still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 95.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun one to watch with friends just because it's just so weird and
yeah. Well, I'm actually looking forward to watching it. I like watching it. I like watching those kinds of films, and I love Christopher Walken.
And Walken's just great in it. I mean, he plays an angel, and he's absolutely terrifying.
Man, he's good. He's such a good actor. Anyways, back to History of Violence and Viggo Mortensen as we go through the rest of his life. We can talk about Lord of the Rings now.
No, let's not. Let's save that. Did you know that when he broke his foot when he kicked the helmet?
I literally can't keep that in every time we see that scene.
Oh my goodness. It's a freaking meme now. Okay. Anyway, did you know that this film, A History of Violence, is based on a comic written by the same person that wrote Judge Dredd?
I did not.
I didn't know he wrote Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Same guy.
It's funny. I've read a few reviews on this movie, and everybody's like, "It's a bad interpretation of the comic book."
Okay. I don't know. I've never. It's a one shot comic, and I've never really been interested.
I
in
saw it,
reading
and I'm just
but-
like, well, I can't. Apparently, that's your opinion because I thought the movie was pretty good.
Well, I think Cronenberg was setting out to do to take the basis of the comic and then make all these commentaries on violence and family and do his usual Cronenberg thing with like digging really deep into the main theme and trying to put it on film in an interesting way. And I don't think the comic necessarily like just a shot for shot done for the comic. I don't think most filmmakers that have the ability to do what they want in Hollywood would necessarily like want to make a shot for shot. That doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if there's themes that were in the comic that are even more powerful than what Cronenberg put on film, I don't know about it. That'd be the only time I would like in this type of like media, like the adaptation. It's like when the adaptation tones down the themes of the original one. Maybe to fit commercial aspects and stuff like that, that's when I'll give it a negative. But for the most part, if the and I have a hard time thinking that Cronenberg toned down for this movie, but still, that's the only time I give him a negative point for that. And so, I guess one of us would have to read it to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's anything like the original Judge Dredd, I mean, the Judge Dredd, I've read a little bit of those, and those are fun.
Yeah,
they're definitely a fun read. But anyways, yeah. I mean, overall, I really enjoyed this movie. This is a more enjoyable movie. I honestly thought this was a more violent movie. And don't get me wrong, there's violence in it, and that's kind of what kind of pushed me away from it originally.
It's like the violence in Blade Runner 2049, where it's fast and brutal and not quite out of nowhere, but it's fast and extremely brutal, like real life.
And then it's over with.
And then it's over quick.
And then you're just dealing with most of the movie is dealing with the fallout from the violence, which is I think is kind of the point of the movie is how do people, as much as it might be a critique on American obsession with violence and in media, I think it's also, kind of a study on what Cronenberg thinks a family becomes when they're exposed to that much violence. It's like how the violence is kind of passed down, how he's telling his son, we don't hit people, and then immediately afterwards hits him, it's like this whole thing about how violence kind of spawns other violence. I mean, there's the whole ending always reminds me of kind of like kind of Cain and Abel in a sense, right? It's like these two brothers, and in this we're looking at it probably more from Cain's side of things than Abel's, but still.
Interesting.
Yeah. But now it makes me want to go back and rewatch all, other Cronenberg films. Like I really want to go back and watch Eastern Promises again.
What was it? The major love story that Cronenberg did was The Fly. I mean, that's his love story. It's his love story as a film.
I mean, The Dead Zone is what's his face's love story with himself almost. Christopher Walken's. No, yeah, I know it's not the same thing. But...
Yeah, I mean, Scanners, all that stuff, man.
Oh gosh, I forgot about Scanners. Oh man,
I love Scanners. That's definitely a favorite of mine. And stuff. Michael Ironside, how can you go wrong with him? Right?
I know, right?
I'm gonna have to rewatch that one. Eastern Promises, Prophecy. Like my watch list is just growing. Like I've got to go add these things to it.
And Josh, you hadn't seen this movie before, right?
No, this is the first time.
All right, awesome.
Definitely a first time, and again, surprised about it.
Yeah, I was wondering if everybody would enjoy it because it is, kind of a, I don't know, it's a it's an interesting movie because like it's pretty easy to kind of just glide through it and just be like, oh, this is kind of crazy, and then but like if you like stick with it and like really focus on what it's trying to say, it's like you can get kind of deep in the go down rabbit holes around the themes and stuff like that.
Interesting. But yeah, again, took me by surprise. Really enjoyed it, but I'm glad I took the time to watch it. I don't even remember how long it was. Some movies like The Untouchables. You're looking at the clock like, wow, how long is this?
Right.
I didn't feel that way with this one at all. And lately in the movies that we've been watching, I've kind of felt that a little bit, kind of the ticking clock. I mean, even with Black Mass, I felt that way a little bit,
Yeah, Black Mass definitely drug a bit.
So, but what do you do?
What do you
do? But other than that, I enjoyed it, and I want I think I might watch this one again. Definitely, if I had the chance.
Awesome. Anything else?
Anybody else has anything else that you want to say, or did you guys get it all out that you needed to get out on this one?
I think I got what I wanted out of it.
Okay.
I mean, we talked about the important things to me, so
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, like you could go into like the sons, like each family member's reaction to the violence and how they change and stuff like that and things. But I don't know. I think I've said everything, like the major points, that I wanted to get to.
Good. All right, excellent. Should we go to ratings then?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give mine. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a really good movie, really solid. Almost gave it an 8. Maybe I should have. But Viggo Mortenson's acting alone. I mean, everybody was just solid actors in this movie. So overall, great directing, great story. So that's what I think about it. What do you think?
I would never watch this with my mom.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Ever in my life. In fact, I will do my best to never ever tell her about this episode, so she never goes and watches it. So yeah.
All right.
Awesome. What do you think, Kurt?
I'll give this an 8 out of 10. I like the cinematography. I like the acting, and I think the fact that it was Cronenberg and he doesn't turn away from like the gruesomeness of the violence, like that just cements it. Like if you gave it to a lesser director, and did it kind of James Bond style of violence, where a gunshot is kind of a poof and then the person falls over and it's not visceral. You get an idea that somehow that shooting someone's fun, right? And this one doesn't have that. I think that's an interest. I like that better, right? It's like violence should be horrific because it actually is horrific, and I think cartoon violence is kind of a little bit of a cop out, but at the same time, we still need our enjoyment and we still enjoy it. So, I still enjoy that type of stuff, even if it's definitely not real violent, or it doesn't reflect the horror of real violence. But I think this movie's great just for one, that aspect of it, and then the other one's just like, I think the filmmaking is pretty awesome in it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good. All right. Well, I think that was a good watch. I think that was a good pick, Crit, and stuff. I think, I don't know, in my opinion, it was probably the better of the 3 for this month. So.
All right. I won the competition. Wait,
yeah.
What do I get?
I don't know. You guys ready for my picks on the new topic?
Yep.
Yeah. What's the new topic again?
John called it.
We're calling it mind benders.
Benders. There we go. All right. So I've got 3. Took me a minute. I had to have my wife help me, but I took these from movies that kind of bent my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. So really enjoyed them. So, number one, this will take your mind so deep it won't come out. Number two is always better than one. Number three, trusting one's own mind. So this will take your mind so deep you won't come out. Two is always better than one. And trusting one's own mind for the third one.
What are you feeling, John?
I don't know. They all sound good. The second one, maybe?
Okay. Yeah, we can do two.
Okay. So number two, you selected. So number one, this will take your mind so deep it won't come out. Interstellar. Number three, trusting one's own mind. Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, so the old one. All right.
The old one. I love the old one. That one tripped me up. You never knew if it was real or not the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Good pick.
And the second one, this is the one my wife gave me, actually. Two is always better than one. The Prestige.
Okay.
All right.
And stuff. So it was kind of a trippy film, I thought. So.
Okay.
Awesome.
So hopefully you guys enjoy those ones, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. And stuff, because I haven't seen The Prestige for a long time either, so it's been a while. So, all right. And to everybody out there listening, thank you for supporting our channel. Thank you for listening to us ramble along. And if you like what you hear, click the like channel. It always helps us with the YouTube algorithm. And as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. Have a good night.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe and check out our other nerdy videos.